Supposing a man dressed as I am, someone that you had never met before, came into your place of business and, speaking to you in clear, persuasive tones, offered to sell you a watch. Would you buy it? Would you pause even to examine the merchandise? Or would you spurn the offer out of hand and ask the gentleman, be gone? The question, my friends, is not merely hypothetical, because today I am that man. And I offer you not a watch, not a mere timekeeper, but the precious gift of time itself. AppleLink 5.0. I know what you're thinking, but not so fast. This is not your father's AppleLink. It's new. It's improved. It's one step short of pure telepathy. Everything you always wanted AppleLink to be, and more. Let's log on. Now, this is not trick photography. This is not edited. This is real time. Your time. Returned to you to do with as you wish. AppleLink 5.0 is this fast. And that's just for openers. Here's how quickly it sends your mail. Want to see it again? Transmission speeds have been clocked at 2 or even 3 times faster than any previous AppleLink. Need I say another word? I think not. But as long as you're asking, let me show you just a few more of its finer points. You'll save even more time, because under Multifinder, AppleLink 5.0 can work in the background, wherever that is. The point being, you do not have to attend to it. It will obediently send your mail or fetch it and deposit it in a folder for you to peruse at your leisure while you're off doing other things. AppleLink is not just getting faster, it's getting better. If you, like myself, have ever harbored the merest suspicion that AppleLink, because it only dealt with text files, was just slightly un-Macish, well then wait till you feast your eyes on this. These, my friends, are graphics. What the Macintosh is famous for. What AppleLink has heretofore ignored. Graphics. You see it now, you'll cherish it forever. AppleLink 5.0 can handle graphics. But wait, there's even more. Your own address book with built-in search button to help you find that elusive AppleLink address or to allow you to set up your very own group address. And yes, there's even more. It's easier to get around in AppleLink 5.0. You can customize your own menu to bring up any folder, library, or bulletin inside of AppleLink. And banner headlines help you find the latest news, the hottest promotions, and the inside information that will help keep you one step ahead of the guy who's one step behind you. And yes, there's even more. But sadly, you don't have time to hear it all. Of course, if you had already been using AppleLink 5.0, you might have saved up the extra time to hear the rest of the story. Although in that case, you'd already know it, and we could spend our remaining moments together in the quiet contemplation of contemporary art. As it is, I think it best to remind you of what AppleLink 5.0 can do for you. It offers you faster communication, better communication, and easier navigation. So, did I make the sale? Or would you be interested in this watch?
Like most engineering departments at Apple, we'd be lost without computer-aided design. It helps us visualize our wildest ideas, explore the integrity of engineering concepts, or simply put finishing touches on a set of drawings. Our job in product design is to create solutions that are sophisticated yet appropriate ingenious yet easy to manufacture. Our staff is constantly searching for new ways to solve old problems. We're a bunch of hard-working, dedicated professionals who love to push the envelope on technology. This is an exact model of the Macintosh 2CX we painstakingly designed on screen. It's our first chance to see our ideas in action. We pore over the details, checking every clearance, every fit, every dimension. When you're manufacturing thousands of products per day, it pays to sweat the details. Here's one of our designers using a fluid dynamics program that we ported to Apple's Cray. This enables us to simulate molding plastic parts before we actually build the tool. A few years back, we had no choice but to build a tool and then refine it by trial and error. Now with this new advanced simulation capability, we can quickly and thoroughly validate our designs early in the development cycle. In the tool, plastic has the consistency of taffy flowing on a warm day, yet it's a complex hydrocarbon chain. Bruise the material through rough handling and you're likely to lose the material properties, structural integrity, or end up with parts that look like our competitors. Here, for example, we're simulating molten plastic flowing between steel plates that are laced with obstructions. To do this, we use a mesh generator to form a finite element grid on the surface of the part. In essence, what we're doing is breaking down an extremely difficult problem into thousands of more manageable simultaneous equations. 24,000 unknowns were turned over to the Cray. We reached a solution within 1.5 hours, whereas before we used a VAX, and it took 7 days. From the data on the screen, we can now zero in on important performance parameters of the mold, such as material temperature, pressure, and flow. This information tells us how we can then adjust the design of the part or mold to allow us to build the best products. Products that are both rich in aesthetics and high in engineering integrity. Now let's leave the pristine environment of CAD and visit our tool construction shop, where the chips are flying. It takes more than $200,000 and 6 months to transform this block of steel into a precision production tool. Before it leaves this shop, the tool will be handled by dozens of highly skilled tool makers and their machines. From numerical control mills that are fed detailed surfacing information from CAD files, to EDM, which uses electricity to carve out cavities in steel, removing metal one particle at a time. The process uses carbon electrodes and up to 80 amps to burn away unwanted steel. At the rate of 1,000th of an inch per minute, it's a slow, exacting process. Our finishing touch is the human touch. We fit and polish all completed components by hand, rubbing out each machining part with the old-fashioned method of abrasives and elbow grease. It's a time-consuming process, but sometimes the old ways are still the best. Finally, we have a precision instrument measuring 3 feet on a side, weighing 10,000 pounds, and made to tolerances 1/3 the diameter of a human hair. After 10 months of hard work, we're now ready for the final test at the plastics molding shop. Here we use little beads of plastic that start off the process in this big blue hopper. Then the beads enter the tube where they're melted and finally injected into this monster of a molding press. Inside the machine is the mold mounted on steel plates called platens. With physical conditions more like those on Venus, 1,700 pounds per square inch and 400 degrees Fahrenheit, the forces developed in the mold are extreme. To counter them, the press exerts up to 1.5 million pounds of force on the platens, and these keep the mold from blowing open. It takes less than 2 minutes to mold a part this size. Recognize it? It's the bottom half of a 2CX housing. Now watch this delicate maneuver as the platens separate and 14 pieces of steel move in a carefully prescribed sequence to free the molded part from the tool. The part is checked for quality and then packed for shipment to the factory. We repeat this cycle thousands of times a day, millions of times a year on 3 continents. You've already seen the heart and soul of our operation. Now let's see where silicon, metal, and plastic all come together at our Fremont, California plant, located just a few miles from the molder. Parts like the 2CX housing arrive every hour and are delivered directly to the 2CX production line. We pride ourselves in using advanced manufacturing technology to minimize the number of people and floor space needed for final assembly, and to keep production moving at a healthy clip. You'll find the robots on this advanced manufacturing line look a lot like people. Here's where sweating the details in the design, tooling, and molding phases really pays off. 2CX assembly is so easy, most anyone can put it together flawlessly.
Part of Apple's identity is innovative leadership in technology for people. Breakthroughs have come from all over Apple, but there's one group that has breakthrough as its charter, and that's ATG. Your Advanced Technology Group is Apple's principal research organization. We have labs in Cupertino, Los Angeles, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Columbia, Maryland. We like to work on high-risk projects, paradigm shifts, unexpected applications, and try untested technologies. Some ATG innovations have already appeared in Apple products, like the Mac 2 sound and video that Don Casey just showed you. Like Object Pascal, clones of Object Pascal have recently been announced by Microsoft and Borland with great fanfare 4 years after Apple introduced it to a pretty skeptical market. And Mac App, which still has no peer and is now coming into its 2nd generation. Like HyperCard, which started a little revolution of its own in personal computing. And even an Apple II product has come out of ATG. That's the Video Overlay Card, a little high-tech wonder camouflaged as an educational tool. More ATG innovations are in the product pipeline, and you'll be seeing products in 1990, 91, and 92 that come from them. Back in the labs, we're still continuing research on the technologies for the mid-1990s, like high-speed computing and I/O, highly integrated custom chips, ways to use artificial intelligence techniques to improve the user interface, and ways of supporting people who are working together at great distances at their own desktops, connected by high-speed lines. But ATG is not all technologists. We have education researchers, we have a physicist, an anthropologist, psychologists, an architect, a physician. We even have a businessman who helps us to understand the commercial implications of what to do, and he owns a tie. ATG is also the home of external research, which supports advanced research at universities, of the Apple Classroom of tomorrow, that's a cot, and the Apple Library of tomorrow, that's a lot. This afternoon in Dianza 3, we're going to present a video play to explain some of the work that ATG has published, patented, and prototyped. It'll run every 30 minutes, and I hope a lot of you will get to see it. But just to be sure everybody gets to see some good stuff here, we have 2 special demonstrations that we'll be showing on the stage. First of all, do you remember Pencil Test? Last year, Pencil Test was accepted to the SIGGRAPH Film and Video Show and also toured with the Festival of Animation. This year, 3 ATG animations were accepted into SIGGRAPH, 1 at the Film and Video Show, and that's the one we'll be showing here today. The interesting thing is how this particular animation was created. Usually, the way computer animation is done is that artists draw frames that are called keyframes that are separated by, say, a few seconds, and then the computer interpolates between the frames so that some object may be moving from one place to another. But it's just interpolating just points to points. With the thing that you're about to see, this animation was done by defining objects and then specifying motions in a higher level like falling, crawling, lunging in mathematical ways. And then the computer used equations of physics to compute the frames of the animation. So this is a very advanced method that saves tremendous amounts of time for the people using it. So let's take a look at this animation. It's called Her Majesty's Secret Serpent.
Apple Computer, the epitome of the American dream. In 1977, a company with sales of 774,000. Today, a company with annual sales approaching 600 million, on the threshold of being the youngest company ever to make the Fortune 500. At the root of Apple's success lies the world's first personal computer. The Apple II, small, inexpensive, simple to use. The first computer an individual could take out of the box, plug in, and run. Bringing computing down to a personal level. One person, one computer. Throughout the world, more than 750,000 Apple IIs are being used, the largest installed base of any computer manufacturer. With the most software and peripherals, all of this makes Apple the personal tool for a wide array of markets. Business, home, education, science. But the personal computer market has not stood still. Advances in technology and design occur almost daily. Today, there are more than 100 personal computers to choose from. Apple maintains its leadership role by using advanced technology to improve the industry's #1 product. To reaffirm its commitment to this winning product, Apple has enhanced the Apple II to meet consumers' and dealers' broadening expectations about personal computing. Apple has taken the Apple II, refined its design, and added some of the most popular features available on personal computers. The result is the Apple IIe, a personal computer that is more reliable and easier to use. In fact, it's the most personal computer.
In 1976, when Woz and I designed the Apple II, what we tried to do was use the state-of-the-art technology available to us at that time to create a product that had a greater value for a computer than had ever before been realized. And I think we achieved that because Apple II went on to be the largest selling computer in the history of the world, and still is. But we want to continually bring this experience of using a computer to more and more people. And we embarked upon a program approximately 24 months ago to take this best-selling computer in the world and increase its value even further by using the state-of-the-art technology available to us today that wasn't available in 1976. And as a result, we've created the IIe, the same old 2, but implemented with 1983 technology. But you know, the IIe is better than the 2. And my hat's off to the IIe team. It's better than Woz and I did in 1976.
So what you're probably wondering is why we call it the Apple IIe and not the 2++ or the 2+ Extra Plus or even Mary or Diana. Well, the E stands for enhanced. We've redesigned the Apple II, made it simpler, more reliable, and enhanced it with built-in features that are important to today's users. What we've done is to make the most popular personal computer ever used in business, home, schools, and laboratories even more useful for these markets. First, we made it more powerful to handle larger tasks and more sophisticated programs. The Apple IIe has 64K of user memory, and the ROM has been boosted to 16K. And we've added a powerful control program with BASIC built in, so the system comes up smart. We modified the keyboard to make it easier to use. It's now a standard typewriter keyboard with special keys, easy cursor movement, tab function, caps lock, and a host of other additions, giving the keyboard a full 128 ASCII upper-lowercase character set with 63 keys. Also, an upper-lowercase display is standard, so you never have to add a lowercase accessory. And we're offering a low-cost, plug-in 80-column card, developed especially for the IIe. But that's not all. Improved peripheral ports make connecting cables to peripheral cards easier. You can even lock the top to keep prying fingers out. Plus, the IIe has an even more reliable design. We've dramatically decreased the number of components necessary on the motherboard, which is to say, we've increased reliability and made service even easier for you. The product's introduction has been carefully orchestrated to ensure that the IIe follows in the distinguished footsteps of the Apple II. In fact, to become the most personal computer.
We've developed an extensive Apple IIe testing program for hardware and software, and we will continually update the field on information and changes with regard to compatibility. The challenge was to refine the most popular personal computer and maintain the largest software base of any personal computer. With the IIe, we've accomplished just that. Numerous hardware and software developers have already tested their products on the Apple IIe. And we have focused on key developers in each market segment to upgrade their products to utilize the new features of the IIe. Many of these products will be available at the time of introduction. In addition, our telephone hotlines are informed and ready to deliver quick responses on questions from dealers. And user publications and technical updates have been developed especially for the IIe. And to make you more familiar with the IIe, we've put together a comprehensive dealer kit with merchandising, advertising, and point-of-sales materials specifically to help you sell the IIs right now.
The Apple II is a tough act to follow, but the Apple IIe is a solid product with additional features that will help make it easy to use and easy to sell. The Apple IIe.
Hello, I'm Michael Markman. In the early days of computers, when they cost multiple millions of dollars, were housed behind glass walls and tended by specialists, it was hard to think of them as personal. And yet today there's more processing power in personal computers than there is in mainframes. One of the people responsible for that change is with us today. He's Dr. Alan Kay. He's now a fellow with Apple Computer, and he's responsible for changing the way we look at computers and the way computers look to us. Alan, how does it feel to be known as one of the fathers of personal computing?
Well, as they say, success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan, so I'm one of many fathers of it. I've always thought the personal computer was invented by Wes Clark back in 1962, but I got interested in the 60s in the whole notion of the computer being something other than a vehicle, but being more like an amplifier the way paper and other media amplify us. And so I just started thinking about what would it be like to have something, not even on a desktop, but intimate, something that you could take with you and maybe even made out of fur or something, but something that would be friendly in a way that computing machinery wasn't back then.
People who are managing the use of computer technology in large businesses or in large government agencies often find there's a resistance to the technology, and there is a barrier to accepting new ways of working. Is there a difference between the way people respond to Macintosh versus other computers such as MS-DOS?
We certainly think that there is, and the response and the change in market share and so forth over the last few years would lead us to believe that there's a much greater appeal in using the Macintosh style of interface. The Mac has two things that it tries to do. One is it tries to meet people where they are and not demand any special knowledge of them to get started, because of course you don't need special knowledge on a computer with a well-designed user interface. You should be able to start from where you are, things that are familiar, operations that you can do instantly. So the Macintosh starts you off doing what people actually do with the Macintosh, and then what it tries to do is to spiral you upward so that you can immediately start doing things, but the sort of an inner goal of the Mac is to help expand people's horizons, giving them new ways to think about things and to get them to perfect skills that they didn't have before. So I think those two things of going with the person as they are and then hoping to elevate the way they think about the world are the essence of the success.
The study on Workforce 2000, which was done by the Hudson Institute, spends a lot of time talking about the changing nature of work and the workforce and the need that people today will have to adapt, learn new skills, and take on new jobs as we move toward the 21st century. Is there anything in the design of the Macintosh that can help?
I think the Mac deals with it in a number of ways. The Mac is much easier to learn than other systems, and so the ability of people to first get on the Mac in the first place and do things, but second, to go to every couple of years to a completely new round of powerful software without an enormous penalty and retraining is one of the largest factors in the Mac's success.
When we look at change moving towards the 21st century, are there different perspectives when you look at it from the management side or from the worker side?
Oh, yes. I think that the, again, huge generalization, but I think that many American workers would like their high school and training to be a little bit like a vaccination. Once you've done it, you don't have to do it again. And that it's very often the case when workers get displaced from jobs, they have a very hard time going to new ones. There's not a large tradition of full life learning in our society. Management, I think, tends to be a little bit component-based when it thinks about people. I need 3 draftsmen over here, I need 2 of these over there. And the enormous training industry that's been set up now tries to mediate between these two. And so I think finding ways to help people see themselves as learners, and one of the best ways to do that, I think, is to fool them, is to get them to do a new skill before they realize they've actually learned something. The Mac has that property, that before you know it, you're actually doing something. Then at some point you realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm using a computer here. What happened?
You said the Macintosh is fun. I think some people may have problems with that. What is the practical value of a computer that's fun?
I think that the practical value of having a device that's fun is that you learn faster on it. Richard Wurman says, learning is just remembering what you're interested in. And so if you can get people interested in something, then the learning will happen a lot faster. The reason I think fun is important is because fun expands people's awareness. They're much more interested, they're more likely to see more possibilities. And they try more things. The experience that we've had with the Macintosh is that the number of applications people actually use on the Macintosh is about 4 or 5 times the number that they use on the MS-DOS environment. And part of the reason is that once people have used a couple of Macintosh applications, they know that about 70% of what they've learned already will be immediately applicable in the new unknown application. So people will not even open the manual.
I think people start out and get into the Macintosh because of the fun they have, but what keeps them going is a sense of achievement, a sense that they can accomplish something that they're interested in doing.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that a really, a pretty face, nice user interface isn't enough, that there has to be an enormous amount of function behind it. And although Apple doesn't emphasize it, we have the most powerful processors that are on desktop computers today. They deliver a lot of function, but by the same coin, the function is absolutely irrelevant if people can't get to it. So it's really a balanced situation where you have to have ease of use, but you also have to have power that you're getting to. So it's like just having automatic transmissions and power steering and kind of things that make an automobile easy to use. You still have to have an engine and wheels and a gas tank and so forth. I think you can be extremely left-brained and quantitative about something like the Macintosh, because the fact is that people are more productive on it by any standards that people care to come up with. The fact that it's fun and so forth, people could think of as being value added. The fact that it takes many weeks less training time is simply one way of paying for the computer in the first place.
There is a lot of emphasis on benchmarking computers and finding out how fast they can do certain processes. I don't think there's enough benchmarking of the entire system, and the system involves the person and the computer. It's how fast you can work with the computer, how fast you can put your ideas into the computer, as well as how fast the computer can process it. It's how fast you can decode what the computer tells you. So I think the benchmarking ought to involve looking at both the user and the computer and measuring that.
Right, absolutely. I agree. I like the idea of system-wide benchmarking, and I think one of the things that has shifted over the years has been a shift from a concern for response time from the mainframe to now a sort of a horsepower race. How many MIPS do you have on the desktop? And I think the real concern, though, is what is your access to resources, both in the sense of what can be on your local hard disk, but ever more, what is your access to resources all over the world that you can get to by networking? And that access question is the heart of thinking about a computer as being a user interface plus function.
And this puts more emphasis on interface.
Well, I think it's that the Mac transcends just the act of computing. It actually gives you an environment in which you feel safe, in which you are interested in things. I mean, at one level, it's simply because it appeals to the kinesthetic domain, which most technology doesn't even contact. So in the Macintosh, you can actually reach into the machine and touch the objects that are in there and move them around. And so you're inserted into the world in a way you aren't in other systems. And that if you consider the total cost of getting a computer as being more than what the box costs, but the total cost over the life of having it and what it means to do things with it, then the Mac is the best bargain on this earth in computers.
As the service sector becomes a more important element of our economy, management in industry and in government are looking not only at productivity issues, but also quality issues. Productivity says more, more, more. Quality says better, better, better. Are these two in conflict, or do they support each other?
This thing of sort of quality, productivity, and fun all actually go together. But I think for people to get sensitive to quality, you have to be able to allow them to experiment with it. And so I think this notion of expansion of awareness is the most important one. And the other one is trust. And I believe in a funny kind of way that the computer revolution is going to expand that, because you're much more an autonomous being on a computer than you are when you're hooked into a typical organization. You're able to do more yourself. You trust yourself more, and I think you are more trusted. And I think that and being in a quality-rich environment can make a person more sensitive to qualitative things. Remember, we're in a place where so many forces in our society are quantitative. They're all bottom-line things. You have to get this done soon, and now we're asking people to sit down and make qualitative judgments about things, but make sure you get done quickly as well. And I think that's the hard one.
So we know as we play out the rest of the century that there are going to be tremendous changes in work and the nature of workers and the workforce. What can we look for from technology, and what should we look for from other sources?
Well, I think I always look first to the human and think that we should change the awareness, the kinds of things that humans are aware of. First, the technology can be the amplifier of that, and to some extent it can be a catalyst and a reason for the change. I think that we will see a very large shift in the next 10 years to a pervasively networked society. We'll see a shift in friendly user interfaces from the tool-based kinds of interfaces that the Mac has made famous to a combination of tool-based and agent-based interfaces where we will have semi-intelligent computer processes taking on some of our goal structure, going out and finding things for us to go around and make sure that transactions we're trying to have executed are going to happen. For doing sign-off that happens in a dozen different places in the world, an agent will go along with the document to try and get each of the people to do the sign-off. It will try and organize and bring together. Our relationship with the computer is going to be changed. The computer is going to jump off the desk into our laps. You know, it's going to be a change from a desktop personal computer to an intimate computer. In other words, we'll start using computer the way we use paper. These computers that we carry around with us but will be linked into this network using cellular technology. Anything that we deal with on the computer can be criticized. We can be skeptical about those models. We can question, we can call up other opinions of it. In the workplace, I think it's going to lead to a much more curious society. I think that the hardest thing for people to do as often is to open up the encyclopedia. Once they've got it open, they will read more than the article they are looking for. So I think perhaps the biggest change in the computer are all of the implications of computers that have no on-off switches. All of these things together are going to constitute an enormous set of changes for organizations to deal with. But as always, the strongest weapon in exploring these new areas is the one between our ears, providing it's loaded.
Jet Propulsion Laboratory is a contractor-operated, government-owned facility, and our primary mission is planetary exploration. We develop spacecraft and operate spacecraft to investigate the planets. I'm Bob Jerka. I'm in the Office of Computing and Information Systems, and I'm a manager of operations and networks. The Macintosh is used everywhere at JPL. We have it in our science endeavors, we have it in our administrative, we have it in our secretarial areas, mixed in with PCs and PC clones. We use it to design our spacecrafts, to fly our spacecrafts, to analyze data from the spacecrafts. These are in the scientific domain, and just about any endeavor in an enterprise like JPL, you'll find Macs being used. Personally, I find the Macintosh the best of the bunch in terms of helping me get my work done. I've had PCs. I don't have them in my office anymore. I have access to PCs in the sense that we're networked to PCs, and if I have to get some data that was generated on a PC, I can quickly grab it across the network and pull it over to my machine, and at the same time convert it so it's usable on my machine. The Macintosh that I have in my office can connect to our computers over here in our major computer building, which are IBM mainframes, UNIVAC mainframes, and a Cray computer. And we also address ourselves to the mini computers like the VAXs and Sun computers and a whole host of computers. And it's the ability to move data and have these computers communicate and work together. From my Macintosh computer in my office, I can talk to NASA headquarters. I can talk to the Supercomputer Center down in San Diego. I can connect to any of the universities in the university system. So sitting here from my office, I can get to just about anywhere in the world. In addition to connectivity, there are other attributes of the Macintosh that make it attractive to JPL. The time it takes to learn the computer is very short. Being an easy machine to learn, you can get at solving your problems faster. This allows for increased productivity in getting your work done, and this translates into money, and money is the bottom line. I don't know of any better computer in the price range. In fact, my motto is, if you try a Mac, you'll never go back.
Some of us who work in Washington, I think, have a lot of pride in what's called the bureaucracy. There are an awful lot of hard-working people here. We try to do things and provide services that help the American people. My name's Carl Fleischhauer. I work at the planning office in the Library of Congress here in Washington, D.C. This year, the planning office and the library is involved in putting together a project called American Memory. It'll be a special affair that begins in 1990 and will distribute Library of Congress collections in electronic form. What we propose to do is find collections in many different formats that people can use to get better insights and a better understanding of our American experience. Manuscript collections, book collections, music collections, motion picture collections, collections of still photographs and prints, and find a way to make digitized copies and distribute them around so people can get at them in different parts of the United States. As we design the project, we're making very good use of Apple Macintosh and HyperCard. Now, when you sit down at the American Memory workstation, you get past the opening screen and come up on the main menu. What we're going to do is click on Reading Room, and that'll bring us into an area where we can look at the graphic arts collection. Once we're into this particular mode, we're able to reach out and bring up the search system And we're going to do a little search here, looking to see what we might have in the graphic arts collections that pertain to farms and farm policy, agriculture in general being sort of an interest here. By keying in the word farm, and the first collection we're looking at is a group of political cartoons. And we can actually bring up digitized images on the screen connected to the Macintosh. Now, one of the things that we're interested in is making certain connections. We could look at related collections. For example, we have an ethnographic grouping that we're sort of sampling here from the American Folklife Center. This is from a project that they did a few years ago in Nevada, and the farmers there are actually ranchers. This is footage of the rancher at work made recently, but we can also keep looking through this multimedia collection in our prototype Apple platform and find still photographs. These are some wonderful turn-of-the-century photographs that show cowboys and cowboy life in Nevada. This really is a storehouse of information, and information not only in textual form, but also in pictorial form and in audible form. And the trick is how to make that information in all of its forms more accessible. And I don't think there's any question that the Apple Macintosh computer and HyperCard, which we're using in this prototyping, has been extremely useful for us.
These days, even an idea whose time has come may have trouble arriving. Because to make an idea fly, you first have to express it. The best way we know to get an idea off the ground is through Apple Desktop Media. We call it media because you can express your ideas in print, on slides, or live from the computer itself. Desktop, because that's where you can make it happen. Apple, because we're the people who started the revolution on the desktop. And now we're taking you even further. Apple Desktop Media starts with one tool, a Macintosh personal computer. One tool that can be used in many ways, so you can choose the most appropriate medium for your message and audience. An idea expressed in a publication can easily be shown on a color slide, in an interactive presentation, or in an animated demonstration using sound and motion. We'll take you to 4 places around the country where individuals are putting Apple Desktop Media to work. Different people with different ideas using the same tool to express them. An ad agency like Jordan McGrath in New York is in business to communicate. Apple Desktop Media helps them find new ways to get their ideas across, not just to the public, but to their clients as well. The agency uses the Macintosh to lay out ads, design publications, and to present storyboards with sound and motion.
This is the spot where we discuss the benefit of the natural flavors in the oatmeals. And
I don't care what kind of a commercial you produce, and I don't care what it costs. If you don't communicate the message, if you don't sell your client's product, you've wasted your money. If I'm an old-time art director, I'm 48 years old, I don't even know how to type. And I looked at these machines, I said, my God, what am I going to do with this? You know, I didn't even play video games with my kids. But I decided that we're going to get these and we're going to learn how to use them. And I've got everybody, all 10 people in the studio now who know how to operate Mac. Right now, in 10 minutes on the Mac, I can revise an ad 6 different ways and take a label and change it 6 different ways. If I didn't have the Mac, it would take the studio 2 days to do that same amount of work. I don't have the time. We would be losing money. The problem with conventional storyboards is that it's a long step from the storyboard to the finished commercial. And it's a problem in understanding what the final commercial is going to look like and feel like as well.
You see, when you're making cereal with flavors, you got 2 choices. Make the flavors out of chemicals, or you can do it like Grace does and pick them right off the tree.
The Macintosh was the perfect answer because it was the most effective simulation machine. We could incorporate sound and graphics easily, plus give the user the ability to bring motion in without complicated techniques and hardware. You know, when you make cereals with flavors in them, you got two choices. You know, when you make cereals with flavors in them, you got two choices.
Clip allows me to take a flat storyboard, something with no sound, and bring it to life. Put it into the computer and have it tell a story. You can take your artwork and you take your soundtrack and it brings them together, and you have control over timing. You have control over the images. What do you think?
I think that's terrific. When we present this to the client, they're very surprised because they don't know what we're going to show them. They don't expect to see anything like this. It's easy, it's fast, and it's inexpensive. And today, agencies and clients both have to find ways to communicate the message and find out what it is and how to communicate and do it for less money.
Even when you're not in the business of communicating, your business depends on clear communication. At ARCO in Los Angeles, people express ideas in many forms, including 200-page publications, detailed maps, and live presentations to senior management. ARCO first put the Macintosh to work publishing an offering circular on its AM/PM mini-market franchise.
We figured that the last time we had done the offering circular by professional printing, we had a pretty good idea that it cost us around $62,000 to produce the book. Now, the first time we did it with the Macintosh, we made our mistakes. We used a little overtime, we weren't quite as efficient as we should have been, and it cost us about $13,000. So our net savings on that was almost $50,000 for that one book, and we do issue 6 or 7 of them a year. As soon as we got finished with the prospectus books, it became evident, hey, you know, if we can use it for this, why can't we use it for a whole lot of other things? All of our terminals have diagrams of how a driver should route himself to a service station and how he should make his entry and exit onto the site. We determined that it would be very helpful if those were regularized, put into a common format so everyone could read them and they all look the same.
The maps before were drawn on a little, about a 5x6 piece of cardboard that somebody just sat at a desk and drew, and when things changed, nothing got updated.
We've begun to make our first attempts at using HyperCard as a presentation media in our quarterly reviews to senior management, which has been very effective for myself and my counterparts, rather than using the standard overhead slides, which are a little difficult to manipulate. The actual HyperCard stack was made up by my secretary, who got input from all of the department managers and put the information that they wanted in their presentations into the HyperCard stack.
Make sure that each of the departments has a different effect, like a barn door or a wipe or whatever.
The reaction to the HyperCard presentation was quite positive and has led us to look at that means to make other presentations in the future. And it's always nice for me to have someone come in the office and say, I just found something new that I can do and it's going to solve a problem for me. There's an enthusiasm that builds, and there's a sense of discovery about learning something new that is going to help you do your work a little better.
Discovering new ways to get things done is at the heart of working with Macintosh. At GTE in Indiana, managers have discovered they can use Macintosh itself to convey critical and complex information to their employees, with the extra impact of sound and motion. Dan Rice teaches field repairmen how to detect air pressure leaks in underground telephone cables. The cables are pressurized to keep water out.
I believe that the problem prior to using the Mac was in the lecture type of format that we had, was that the student really never got involved in the process. He learned the theory, He had it up in his head, but there was really no way, no good way for him to take that and apply it directly in a simulated or a hands-on environment.
So your first 5 are good again. Your balance is 16.2.
You're 9,000 some feet out.
Right.
The water is making us look electrically longer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
For me to be persuaded this was worth pursuing and selling in higher echelons of GTE, I had to feel that it was cost effective and training effective. So we did our research to find out, is this a possibility? And we knew we were going to take some risks because it really hadn't been done anywhere before.
Well, we had several reasons for going to the Macintosh. Number one was that it was graphic. The other thing that also helps with the Macintosh is that we can integrate the digitized sounds, such as if a student goes over to a valve, takes a reading, and there's 5 pounds, he hears the sound that that particular tool would emit at that particular device.
Probably pretty close to your threshold.
It's almost identical to what we have around this area here as far as the digital air pressure gauges and the SO buckets and all the apparatus that we use to find leak detections. It's very familiar.
That's a leak.
The reaction of the student is they enjoy it. That's the big difference. They look forward to coming in. You come in on your lunch hour, and there's some of your students that are working, and they're doing it on their own time. They're enjoying it. If you can make training fun, that's a secret of learning.
Apple Desktop Media is a powerful way to communicate, but you don't have to be a large organization to make it work for you. On an island off the coast of Maine, Apple Desktop Media is helping one individual make a difference in her community.
My name is Agatha Cabanis, and I am the owner, Chief Executive Officer, floor sweeper, coffee maker of Islesboro Publishing Company. The major issue on the island today is the viability of the year-round community. Development pressures, rising taxes are pushing people off the island. You haven't a town if you haven't a newspaper, because people in a town need to communicate with each other.
I think it's a very good paper. I think it's needed. It lets the island people know what's going on.
Well, the publishing of Islesboro Island News, with the exception of what services are rendered by Samantha Cat, is totally done by one person with 2 Macintosh computers. The first thing was to realize the Mac wasn't going to blow up in my face. I was terrified that if I hit the wrong key, I would do something horrible. But after I got the hang of it, it was a snap. And the wonderful thing is that I can open any program and at least run it. I may not know what to do with it. And the other day, somebody brought me some work to print with a completely strange program, and I could run it. There is no way on this earth that one person can do what I'm doing without a Macintosh computer. And what is it, as one company says, reach out and touch, but I guess I do it tangibly. Rather than over a wire, I reach out and touch with paper and a Macintosh and a laser printer.
In fields as diverse as advertising and telecommunication, in places as different as rural Maine and downtown Los Angeles, people are finding a better way to communicate their ideas. Apple Desktop Media. Now that you've seen it, you may want to explore it yourself. Your Apple dealer can give you a close look at work that people around the country have produced with Apple Desktop Media. You'll see how Macintosh helps you take control of the media. No matter how complex the point you need to communicate, Apple Desktop Media makes the process easier and more successful. Because it gives you a choice of media: publications, slides, and overheads, black and white and color, and presentations with sight, sound, and motion, including a special presentation of our own. It's a self-guided tour that will let you explore the world of Apple Desktop Media. See for yourself how you can express your ideas more powerfully than ever before. Because a good idea is only the beginning.
Movietone News, bringing you the important news events of the day. From the furthest reaches of the free world, venerable members of the press corps flock to the Marriott in New York City to preview the latest release of Apple networking products. With long-promised products now in hand, company officials express confidence that Apple is finally an indubitable force in the ever-expanding world of connectivity. But it wasn't always that way. January 1984. Apple introduces the Macintosh, a computer of great power and promise that allows exceptional communication with the printed page, but little else. Customers, expecting more than just a modem and the promise of Mac Terminal, vent their frustration. 1 year later, January 1985, Apple unveils the Mac Office, hailed as the complete network solution. MIS experts quickly find that they can connect the Mac to anything, as long as it's a laser writer. Optimistic company officials indicate that laboratory developments of a file server and IBM's PC support is virtually complete. Salesforce confidence reaches new heights. January 1986. Apple design executives huddle in a top-secret laboratory in Cupertino. After a rigorous search for data communication solutions, the team emerges with a white paper. With only promises to sell, resourceful reps develop creative new sales techniques. But 1 year later, customers are still waiting. Some are forced to find new ways to pass the time. 1986. History in the making. Desktop publishing and the Macintosh Plus take off. Apple sells hundreds of thousands of AppleTalk nodes and becomes one of the world's leading vendors of local area networks. In 1987, the company unleashes a new marketing moniker, Desktop Communications, but this time with real products to back it up. AppleShare, Apple Line 3270 file transfer, AppleTalk PC card, DCA filter, AppleShare PC, LaserShare, Laser Selfish, MS-DOS drive, Apple File Exchange, the new Mac 2, Ethernet card, EtherTalk, EtherSpeak, EtherScream, and a man holding a fish. As sales climb, Apple finally proves it can connect with connectivity needs. 1988 will be a banner year for Apple and connectivity. In January, Apple announces a historic new alliance with Digital Equipment Corporation. And in March, the company engineers a friendly acquisition of Network Innovations, thus reinforcing Apple's ongoing commitment to networking and communications. But even more momentous maneuvers are in the making. August 1988. An exhaustive search throughout the world of high technology and international business culminates when Apple announces the arrival of this man, Don Casey, Apple's first Netcom overlord. With Casey at the helm, the Apple connectivity team continues its feverish preparation for June 12, 1989, when the company unveils its most ambitious sweep of networking products. The list is mind-boggling. For IBM connectivity, there's a Token Talk NB card, the Coax Twinax card, the serial NB card, together with Mac APPC and Mac DFT. And on the same day, AppleTalk Phase 2, including AppleShare PC 2.0, EtherTalk 2.0, Token Talk, AppleTalk for VMS, EtherTalk for AUX, and the AppleTalk Internet Router. But that's not all. There's also the Apple Data Modem 2400, Mac X, Mac X25, Mac X Pi, Mac X-Ray Specs, the EtherTalk NB card, CL1 servers for MVS TSO, VM, CMS, VMS, and nothing at all for the Moose. So, as the company moves towards its first gazillion-dollar year, it appears to this reporter that Apple is almost perversely committed to the future of networking and communications. Yes, until the world is one seamless, user-friendly network, and every network bonds with every other network in one great subatomic orgy of connectivity, Apple marches on!